Please welcome Somini Sengupta, International Climate Correspondent, and Hilda Heine, President of the Republic of the Marshall Islands.
Welcome, President Hilda Heine. It's really a pleasure to have you joining us. Climate change poses an existential threat to the Republic of Marshall Islands. The average height of the island atolls where you live is about 1 to 2 meters above sea level. And by 2050, the islands are projected to experience at least 15 centimeters of sea level rise, according to NASA, and potentially much higher, potentially 70 centimeters by 2100, by the end of the century. Now, these sound like alarming numbers for us, but for you, that's your lived experience. What does that feel like day to day to watch your homeland change?
Thank you for that question. Of course, hearing these numbers, we're fearful, what the science is saying about what might happen. So we also live climate change, and we know what it's like. I think for people who are still having doubts that there is such a thing as climate change, they need to come to the Marshall Islands to actually experience to see what's happening, around our communities and to the people's livelihood. But we're also hopeful, that's even though the numbers are scary and it sounds very scary for a small island country like the Marshall Islands. We are hopeful, and I'm hopeful because Marshallese people are resilient. They have lived through other challenges, like through the United States nuclear testing program. We still have people who are displaced from their home communities, and we're still working through that with the United States to make that, to right that wrong. But people are resilient. We've lived through that, and I think making great progress as we try to mitigate the experience.
So you said of those who are in doubt, they should come to the Republic of Marshall Islands to see. What is the one thing that you would like them to see? What is the most dramatic evidence?
Yes, well, if you come to the Marshall Islands, the capital city or the capital island, because this is all, the country is made up of, many atolls.
Islands.
Yes. So Majuro Atoll is the capital of the Marshall Islands. And if you come, you'll see seawalls almost all across on both sides of the island, on the lagoon side and on the ocean side. These are relatively new seawalls that have to be erected because of the experiences that we've lived through in the past 5-10 years. So you can see that. You can also see dead coral when you go diving. All the corals are dying. In Marshall Islands, our major revenue comes from tuna.
Right.
Yeah, and we're seeing the tuna start moving away from our area, going to the cooler areas.
I wanted to ask you about that, because some of the highest value fish are projected to move into the high seas away from your territorial waters. That is a big source of revenue for your government, right? Yeah. Fishing revenues. And you have this very interesting, very creative agreement with other island nations to control access to your waters and to share fishing revenues from your waters. What happens when the fish move into the high seas? Do you think there should be a ban on high seas fishing?
Well, yes, thank you for stating that. It is true that our revenue from fishing is about 30% of our national revenue. So when the fish migrate into the cooler part of the Pacific Ocean, we're seeing that revenue dwindling.
Right.
And so it's a big concern for us. In the Pacific, we have what we call parties to the Nauru Agreement that consists of, it's an agreement between the largest fishing countries in the Pacific, about seven, 8 Pacific Island countries. And so they have devised a way to sustainably manage the fishing stock in our Pacific waters. And so in order for a country to fish there, they have to buy what they call a vessel day scheme, and they have to pay for so much in order to fish in our waters.
So as the fish are moving into the high seas, what do you think? What's your opinion? Should
as the fish move into the cooler areas and into the international water, we have to find a way to regulate that, you know, if that is possible. And there are some proposed ideas to control who fish in the international water near our place by making sure that if you're going to, you cannot fish there unless you're one of the fishing company that purchase vessel day scheme, and you're fishing in our own water before you can allow to fish there.
Fish in the non-territorial waters.
There is a proposal going in that direction. I don't know how successful that would be, but I think it's important for us to begin to look at how we can regulate that.
You mentioned the nuclear tests that the United States did for many years. Sea level rise now threatens the dome in which that waste is buried. The nuclear tests have already made some of the islands uninhabitable, displaced many people. You said in a speech at the UN Human Rights Council, quote, the Marshallese people were misled, forcibly displaced, and subjected to scientific experimentation without their consent. What should the U.S. government do about this? And what has the U.S. government told you so far about your demands for compensation?
Yeah, well, it's been 70 years in the making, this whole process. It has taken us 70 years to negotiate with the U.S. government. And over the years, there have been some support to the displaced people. But the displaced communities are still displaced at the moment. And the goal is to repatriate the people back to their home islands. We're talking about 3 communities of people that have not been able to return because their islands are still contaminated. In one of the islands, I think you might have heard about the ruined dome, which is where a lot of the debris from the nuclear testing program were buried.
Right.
So it was like a large grave that was dug out to put all the nuclear radiation in there. And there's now, we're fearful because that is being leaked into the Pacific Ocean, and radiation is seeping into the ocean. Of course, that will contaminate fish in the Pacific region, and not just the Marshall Islands, but also the entire Pacific region with climate change happening.
So in your view, whose responsibility is it to clean that up? And what have you heard from the U.S. government about that?
Yeah, of course, the responsibility rests with the United States government to clean up. And over the years, as I said, we've had 3 compacts of free association with the United States. And in the first compact that was negotiated, while the Marshallese were not fully informed about the extent of the nuclear testing program, an agreement was made, and apparently the U.S. see that agreement. $150 million was negotiated as the final settlement for everything that was carried out through the nuclear testing program.
Was that enough money?
Of course, that's not enough. When we're talking about land that were decimated, so that has to be paid. We're talking about people who are not back to their home islands. They're still out, anywhere in the Marshall Islands where they can find home. And then there are still lots of cancer-related diseases that people are experiencing. And so awards were made through the Nuclear Claims Tribunal. The money ran out, and they were able to pay some of these nuclear claims. So there is, we're talking about billions of dollars in claims that are yet to be compensated. And so it's we continue to talk with the U.S. and figuring out how all of this can be be taken care of. They've been paying little at a time, but it's not to the full extent of the damage.
Speaking of the U.S., you heard the U.S. President's speech yesterday at the General Assembly. What is your reaction to this? The U.S. is a very important partner for you, and yet has not taken your concerns about climate change very seriously. What's your response to what you heard yesterday?
Well, of course, we're disappointed because we know that climate change is happening. It's not a hoax. It's we live that in reality. So I think you might have a different view if you were to come and visit the Marshall Islands. And as I said, I invite people who don't believe in climate change to come and see what is happening. And I think with respect to the president's comments, he might change his perspective if he were to come and visit. If he were sitting in the chair that I'm sitting, I think he will see the climate change differently from what we're seeing. In the Pacific region, the Pacific Island Forum, which makes up of all the countries in the Pacific, they've declared that climate change is the greatest security threat to the Pacific region over and over again. And so it's nothing that is questionable. It's definitely an issue for the Pacific Island nations.
Are you inviting President Trump to visit the Republic of Marshall Islands and sit in the chair you sit in?
Of course, I would like to invite him. We have a golf course that he can also come and play. We have a unique golf course with 9 holes in one island, and then you fly to another island to finish the other. It's unique, so I think that would be a great experience for the president if he were to make time. And this is on the military base, a U.S. military base that's on Kwajalein Atoll. So he will feel right at home if he comes.
I hope that message can be conveyed to the White House.
But seriously, though, I think we need to be serious about the issue of renewable energy, and for us, that's very important because it's not costing us as much as fossil fuel. We're at the very end of the supply chain, and by the time the fuel come to our islands, it's very expensive. So we cannot afford to maintain our energy sector using fossil fuel. That's why we believe in renewable energy. We think it's the energy for the future. It's clean and it's cheap, I think, and it's best for the environment.
The expansion of renewable energies is, of course, one of the goals set out in previous COP gatherings. We are just 6 weeks away from COP30. We have the president of COP30 with us here this morning. What are your expectations? What is the test for this 30th year of these climate negotiations?
Yeah. Well, this is the 10th year since Paris Agreement, and the expectations are that countries will come to the COP with more serious national, NDCs, and we hope climate especially pledges. That the big emitters, the G20 countries, will come with commitments. But not only that, it's also important for climate finance to be ratcheted up. We're all needing to shore up our, our experiences and the damage that the climate change is doing to us, especially countries like Marshall Islands. We put out there maybe 0.0001 emission out into the, and yet we're suffering from a big in a big way from climate change.
From the impacts.
Yeah, and so it is not. We're not. When we talk about climate finance, we're not talking about charity. We're talking about compensation for what is due, especially loss and damage that many of us are experiencing.
Okay.
So,
I want to ask you finally about the geopolitical picture that we are in. The U.S. and China compete for influence in your region. Your country allows, as you said, the U.S. military exclusive access to operate. And yet the U.S. government has turned its back on this issue that is of such vital importance to you. And it's imposed tariffs on the Republic of Marshall Islands as well, I gather. Is that right?
Well, there is 10% tariff.
10%?
Yeah.
Are you confident that you can count on the United States going forward when the other world power, China, is ready to step in? And likewise, has China made some offers, some overtures to you?
Yes, that's a question that I commonly hear. And of course, as I said before, United States is the closest allies to the Marshall Islands. We have the compact with the United States, so we honor that, and we hope that the U.S. government will also honor the commitments that are secure in that compact. Of course, China is out there, and it's very active in the Pacific region, and we hope that the presence of the U.S. will be strengthened, and that being there in the Pacific and interacting with the Pacific region, presence is very important to us. So when we see the U.S. Representatives out there, it makes us feel that we can trust the U.S. government and the commitments that they put on paper. Recently, Deputy Secretary Landau came to the Marshall Islands, also to PNG and some other countries in the Pacific, and met with leadership in these countries. And these are the kinds of support and would like to see more often. Representatives of the government coming to meet with us and to make sure that the trust is still there, that we can communicate our issues, and that's very important to us.
It's a good note to end on, to make sure the trust is still there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, President Hilda Heine.